From Bishop Ireton High School, it's Real World Wednesdays, a show featuring alumni and friends of the school for the Cardinal community and beyond. I'm Ryan Fannin, Associate Director of Advancement and a member of the BI class of 1989. And on the show today, Aaron Smith, VP of Business Development at Fesco Energy, and Andy Schulman, Director of the Office of Planning, Construction, and Facilities for the Diocese of Arlington, as they share the plan to bring a whole new type of energy to Bishop Ireton High School. When I was a student at Bishop Ireton in the late 80s, the roof of the school building was just that, a roof. It kept the elements out, and the building kept us cool in the warmer months and warm in the colder months. But what if the roof could be used for something more? What if we put solar panels on the otherwise unused rooftops at Bishop Ireton? If it was possible, it would not only generate energy for the school, thereby lowering the impact of BI on the environment, but it could also mean cost savings. I'll admit that I don't know a lot about solar energy and solar power, but as it turns out, people have been using the power of the sun to generate energy for centuries, all the way back to when humans concentrated the light from the sun to start fires. In the late 19th century, technology made a leap forward with the development of the first solar panels. And the solar cells used in many modern solar panels were invented in the mid-20th century. Solar panels really gained popularity in the early 2010s in the United States with incentives and tax credits for individuals, organizations, and businesses who opted to install them. When the Diocese of Arlington decided to modernize some of its buildings with the use of solar panels, Bishop Ireton became a primary target for installation. The reasons were numerous, but chief amongst them was that Bishop Ireton had a lot of flat roof space. After a lot of work and planning, BI is one of several structures in the diocese and one of the biggest that will have solar panels installed in 2024. Coordinating and managing the diocesan project is Andy Schulman, Director of the Office of Planning, Construction, and Facilities. He's working with Aaron Smith, VP of Business Development at Fesco Energy, which is based in Frederick, Maryland. Fesco delivers customized energy solutions where, how, and when they are needed and will be the vendor for this massive project. Aaron's journey to working at Fesco is an interesting one, and he credits his green thumb and entrepreneurial spirit to going from the University of Maryland to NASA to Siemens and ultimately Fesco.
It's been an awesome journey over the years. Feel really lucky and blessed to work with some really talented people during that time. Kind of how the journey started was with one of those relationships. As undergrad at University of Maryland, College Park, and one of our adjunct professors, Andy Schulman, also was CTO of NASA at that time. And during that time, as my sophomore year, still wasn't clear academically on every direction I was going, which I think is probably fairly consistent with at least a lot of my friends at the time. But so I was kind of toggling back and forth on the technical side in terms of IT and cybersecurity, and then business is ultimately the direction that I went. But during that time, through a class in the IT engineering program, met Andy, built a relationship with him, and ended up with an awesome internship with NASA that turned into the initial part of my career working at NASA Goddard, and that's really where cut a lot of my technical teeth. Essentially, we were standing up mission critical comms networks for communication back and forth between the satellites and also the launches, and kind of making sure those systems were cyber secure. So I was kind of an engineering grunt doing that. And I always kind of had that itch in the background, like really was, kind of a granola eating green guy at heart. Loved what I did. I mean, my time at NASA was incredible. I mean, it was a lot of ways really like a college campus out there, and it was just great collaborative environment. But yeah, I was kind of looking for a career switch, and oddly enough, one of the program managers that I worked for at NASA had come over to Siemens, was working in their energy solutions group. And yeah, just kind of made a direct pivot, started from scratch a bit, came over there when I was 28 years old. And yeah, just kind of went from there. It was an awesome time working at Siemens. Loved it there. Kind of worked my way up the food chain from, senior analyst to, basically overseeing underneath tutelage of their leadership, kind of, business operations, things like that. During that time, I got to work for the now CEO of Siemens US, Barbara Humpton, who is a huge mentor in my life professionally. And really just by luck, got to work with, an incredible person who kind of brought me along. Held a number of roles there. The last one I had was I was the director of strategy and business development. Did a ton of really cool projects, a couple standouts for National Park Service and other organizations like that, delivering renewable and energy efficiency projects, large scale projects. And again, I love my time, but, I also kind of had in the back of my mind that I may want to start something on my own. And through that process, kind of, communicating a business plan and getting it out there, I was able to align with John Dukes, who's the president of Fesco Energy. John and I actually had known each other through my time at Siemens when he was the GM at Washington Gas. We kind of have put together a strategic partnership with them doing energy projects across the region here. And then Aldrich Sagan, who's the chairman of Fesco Energy. I felt really comfortable with the vision those guys had. It was very similar to mine, and yeah, kind of away we went.
I read that Fesco Energy develops and delivers turnkey sustainable infrastructure projects to integrate clean tech solutions and carbon-reducing energy generation assets for your customers. Your comprehensive offerings include, I read, renewable energy solutions, energy and water efficiency, sustainable infrastructure, and energy and thermal storage. Can you give us more of maybe a big picture idea of what type of projects your company takes on?
Fesco Energy, at our core, we're an energy services firm. What does that exactly mean? I mean, what that really boils down to is within the company, we've got, full electrical, mechanical, and power engineering in-house. So we basically take a blank slate for our clients and develop those projects, develop custom energy efficiency and renewable solutions for them, or just straight power generation solutions for them. And then, have a full suite of construction managers to build the projects. And then, I think unique to our company and definitely unique to the small business space, we also bring project financing to the table where necessary. So probably 80% of the projects we do are structured finance projects. So, we financially model those projects and bring the capital to the table to implement them.
I know from a Bishop Ireton perspective, we'll talk a lot about the solar energy project, but it sounds like it's so much bigger than solar the way you've described it.
So solar is one component of what we do. Love solar. I think it really is like the step technology right now to in terms of decarbonization and electrification of the grid. And hopefully we can talk a little bit more about that in depth as the conversation progresses. But yeah, mainly we look at campus-wide solutions. So, it's figuring out how to make all of the campus's energy infrastructure more efficient, more green. So that's kind of the demand side of the equation. It's, can we reduce how much energy you're utilizing and make you more efficient, more green? And then there's the supply side. And really what that is behind the meter power generation, or what's commonly referred to in our industry as distributed generation. And basically that's having a energy generating asset that's behind the utility meter on your campus. So similar to what we're doing at Bishop Ireton, a lot of times that's solar. Some of our larger clients, they have more mission critical type needs. National Institutes of Health would be a primary example. We just wrapped up a large campus-wide project for them that, a big part of that was solar. But the project also included some gas-driven solutions because, it's an R&D facility. They really still do need that other technology to support those operations and make sure their experiments don't go down. But at the end of the day, I mean, it's the same goal: is how do we make our clients more energy efficient, and how do we make them more sustainable? And that's really what we're trying to drive towards as an organization.
We're speaking with Aaron Smith, Vice President for Business Development at Fesco Energy, and specifically regarding solar energy and power. For the average person who may not know a lot about this industry, elaborate even more, if you can, about what is being done with this diocesan project through the Diocese of Arlington and the goals of the project once it's completed.
I think what we're seeing, let me back up, is kind of at big picture is how do we become more sustainable? And what that means in terms of how we use power today versus how we use power in the future. A big natural step there is electrification of the grid. And, that process is going to take time, right? It's not going to happen overnight. We all wish it could, but, there's emerging technologies out there that, eventually they'll be the next step in this in this process to electrify. Right now, the two main components are solar and battery storage. When you're thinking about the renewable side of the equation, and that's really the envelope we're trying to push, but also make sure we're staged to implement new technologies going forward, like micronuclear. That's something else that's kind of on the horizon. Bill Gates, as an example, has made a huge investment in TerraPower, which is his small scale nuclear company. He's a pretty smart guy, so I think he kind of sees the vision of how we're going to get from A to B in terms of and it's a step process. It's not going to happen overnight. And when you think about Bishop Ireton and the project that we're working on with you guys, it's being a part of that step process, right? It's showing, the academic community, the surrounding community that Bishop Ireton is, they're thinking about care for creation. They're thinking about implementing renewable solutions. And essentially the project that we're looking at, it's going to be a phased project, but overall has the potential to stand up 450 kilowatts of renewable solutions behind the grid, so solar on the campus. And what that translates to is basically it will reduce and offset about 465 metric tons of CO2 annually. So it's not a small number. It's a significant impact. And it also reduces about 38% of the electrical load that's currently being procured from the grid. So it's, there's the renewable component, which I think is the most important component, but it's also doing it in a cost-effective manner where it actually will reduce the amount of power being bought from the grid and bring in energy savings along with delivering renewable generation.
What excites you the most about this opportunity to, from an educational standpoint, be involved? You and Bishop Ireton, head of school, Kathleen McNutt, were having a fascinating conversation just before we sat down about something that you both talked about, the youth getting, even at the high school level, kids that want to have a chance to get into this industry and how it's never too early. Expand on that, because I found that so interesting earlier.
Yeah, appreciate that, Ryan. So, I mean, if I had to boil it down, the most exciting part about this project is the student element. I'm always trying to push these solutions because I really believe in them and I believe what they bring to the table from a sustainability standpoint. That's across the board. But anytime, whether it's some of our higher ed clients or being able to work with a high school here at Bishop Ireton, the student impact is huge, and that's really what excites me. And as we build this, I know talking to Ms. McNutt that we're looking to make sure that we integrate this into the learning program where all possible. And there's some really cool ways I think we can do that. And I think it's really important. I think this generation is fully behind this energy transition. That's abundantly clear. But one of the big challenges, if I'm being honest about it, with this transition is, we need more people. We need more young people to become professionals in this industry, whether it's on the engineering, business, finance side. It doesn't really matter. There's so many key components out there that we're looking to fill, and just not enough bodies right now. So if I can get even 1-2 students excited enough that maybe this is a career opportunity that they're looking to, I mean, that would just be a phenomenal byproduct of this project.
Andy, you've also had an impressive career in so many ways, from your time at Miami University of Ohio, to the Navy, to the House Committee on Armed Services, to the Diocese of Arlington. Tell us about your journey up to working with the diocese.
Thank you. I'm fortunate because I'm doing what I love, and I'm in a place that I really enjoy. But my background is definitely federal facilities management, and I do think the Department of Defense, I was in the Navy, in particular, is they're good stewards, and they taught us that it just made good mission sense to approach things in a holistic way with sustainability, save costs where you can save costs, and tread with a light foot when possible. And that's kind of where all this comes from. It's just smart business sense. If we can build buildings that support your mission to teach, but also are less harmful on the environment, lighter footprint, and cost less to operate. And that's kind of how I ended up arriving at the diocese. We didn't have much of a holistic program toward sustainability and energy efficiency and livable buildings. Buildings can do so much more than just keep the rain out. They can become part of your delivery system for teaching, for obviously for our liturgy. And so when the bishop first hired me, we took a hard look at how we're managing the infrastructure of our church across Northern Virginia and what we could do better. And I think this is just a piece of that puzzle, where taking our experience and our partners' experiences from energy management, energy conservation, smart buildings, and just updating some very antiquated systems in a smart way to really improve the quality of life in our facilities.
A lot of things from an Ireton perspective we'll talk about in a few minutes, but if you could go back and expand and share with us a little bit, even as you look across all these exciting initiatives throughout the diocese that you're working on, expand a little bit even more if you can, to give our folks some background on your work with the diocese that really is so vast.
Our diocese was established in 1974. Obviously, we split away from the Diocese of Richmond. At the time, we inherited a lot of facilities from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. All of them are getting kind of close to the end of the useful life for a lot of the primary systems like HVAC, structural, roofing. And nothing was designed back then with the idea of efficiency and quality of life. They really were just more buildings or shelter. What the bishops asked us to do is to take a hard look at the quality, the efficiency, and the impact of our infrastructure. And I think buildings across America and the world are one of the greatest contributors to pollution and energy consumption. So if we can take a round turn on a lot of these antiquated facilities, save energy, save operational costs, improve the quality of life in those, and then we're fortunate in our diocese to be building a lot of new infrastructure, as Bishop Ireton has recently seen. We can come in with much more efficient facilities with lots of natural light, great quality of indoor environments, air quality, heating and cooling, and do so in a way that's far more efficient and cost effective versus the rest of Bishop Ireton. And you look at Bishop O'Connell. these are much older platforms or infrastructures that really need some attention, not only to get them to the next 60 years of their lives, but to improve the delivery of whatever mission is that you're doing in there, whether it's a church or a school or a chapel.
Tell us next about Bishop Ireton specifically, because I know before this current solar panel project that we'll talk about throughout our conversation, that you had the opportunity to work as this project of a lifetime for the new 40,000 square foot building at Ireton was being completed, and this exciting chapel renovations. As we were walking in today to tape, I could just tell you lit up when you look down, and the excitement that you have working with head of school Kathleen McNutt on the chapel renovation project. And there's just so much that has happened at Bishop Ireton in recent years. It's incredible, and it's been a game changer for this community.
Yeah, well, full disclosure, my nephew is a graduate of this program, so I'm biased. My daughter went to the old PVI and graduated, and I'm grateful for what PVI did for my daughter. So I'm a huge fan of Catholic schools, and particularly the high schools, because I think that's where we can make a big difference as engineers and architects to deliver dynamic, supportive spaces that the kids can thrive in. And classroom environments, it's just so much more than four walls and a ceiling when we can bring in really dynamic spaces that support the pedagogy. And so architects, I'm an architect by trade, we're trying to not only meet the environmental and the practical side of teaching, but put these young men and women in a place that inspires them. And absolutely, the chapel is part of making our Catholic faith the hub of this school. It's the reason to be here rather than an anonymous building tucked off to the side of campus. And I think that's what you're going to see with this new building that we're sitting in, with the chapel project, with improvements to your lighting and your HVAC, and roof replacements and things like that have to be done. All of it's hopefully going to be transparent to you, the occupants, the users. But at the end of the day, you end up with a more resilient, a more responsive, and a more efficient facility that you just love coming to. It should be a place of joy, a place of light, and a place of that is kind of woven in with our Catholic faith.
Can you talk to us about this solar project in particular throughout the diocese? I know it's not just Bishop Ireton who is having solar panels installed, and how this project came about.
So I'm coming from the West Coast, where electricity costs over 3 times what it costs here in Virginia. And my experience on the West Coast was that solar PV panels on rooftops, where it fit, was very cost effective and in a great way to save costs. In Virginia, we are sort of blessed with lower electricity costs. And so when I arrived, we had one parish with a very small solar panel installation. When I asked around, it's too expensive, it doesn't work, it doesn't make sense. Okay, that was the going in proposition. But working with partners like Fesco, like Catholic Energies, like some other solar providers, we've been able to find investors, developers, engineers that can come up with creative solutions to put a solar array on some of our rooftops, which are not being used for anything. In fact, most of our solar rooftops, you can't even tell there's solar up there because there's a parapet wall. And so from the street, you never see the solar panels. You see them from the satellite view or an overhead view. So we asked the question, would the investment community, do the engineers have an interest in supporting our mission of reducing our energy footprint? Clearly, they have to make money doing it. And clearly, I don't want to put panels up if it's going to cost the parish, the school, more than what they're paying today through the brown grid, utility costs. And so with a lot of long hours, a lot of smart people, way smarter than me, designing these systems, working through very complex financial agreements, dealing with things like federal tax credits, dealing with things like sustainment and operation of these systems, we were able to find not just Bishop Ireton, but we're now up to, I believe, 9 facilities that will, by the end of 2024 certainly, have solar grids on the rooftops It feeds in behind the meter, and that means that if the sun is shining, you're pulling electricity from your panels. But clearly on a non-sunny day or at night, you go back and you take power from the grid. So my goal was to put this out there for pastors and head of schools to consider, and Bishop Ireton is one that came forward. Your boss is a very sensitive and engaged and dynamic leader who says, let's give it a try. The problem with Bishop Ireton is a lot of your roofs are aged. I don't want to put solar panels on an older roof. So what we're planning to do here and in other locations is make sure your roofs are squared away, that they're going to last for decades, and then put a solar system on top of that. We don't punch holes in the roof. We don't modify the facility in any way. And so these solar panels can last upwards of 25 years. And so with a new roof going in, panels down, drawing electricity day after day, all year round, we think we can vastly reduce your draw on the grid at Bishop Ireton. And we can show students and parents and faculty as they walk in every day just how much electricity we're generating by not solely relying on the grid. And like I said, I hope it's mostly transparent to you. But if I do this across the diocese and we're finding more and more pastors and head of schools that are interested, we will very soon be able to generate as much diocese-wide as we consume. And that just means a more resilient grid, less burden on the utility, and hopefully cost savings also for the places that allow these solar developments to come in.
You commented and gave some great background and foresight on that, but even if you could expand to talk a little bit more about, you explained how Ireton got involved, Andy, but look at from a big picture, the big goals for the school with the installation of these solar panels, if you could expand on that.
So it's funny, we've all spent time on Google Earth or Apple Maps, and we literally just went out and looked from above. We looked down and looked for flat roofs. We so far have not been installing many solar panels on sloped roof systems, but Ireton pops as one of our assets in the bishop's inventory that has a considerable flat roof area that is, again, not being used for any other purpose than stopping the rain from coming in. So what I did was go across most of the metro area properties and look for those locations that had sufficient roof area available, and particularly older buildings that I know need help with energy operational efficiency. And so Bishop Ireton rose to the top very quickly because you have an older facility, older plant, a leaky building, aged HVAC systems that probably cost more than new systems to operate. So we came forward to your head of school with an opportunity to pursue development of the solar program with no money from the school. Again, investors that are keen to own and operate green infrastructure at Catholic, nonprofit facilities. There's federal tax credits, and there's also the ESG or the green investment community that needs to invest in projects like Bishop Ireton's solar rooftop. So that's how we found you. We found a receptive leadership. Our job at the diocese is to facilitate the business arrangement, make sure that the lawyers, risk management and safety, that it's all being done above board in a transparent way. And hopefully you all can, just focus on your mission, and at the end of the day, enjoy the cost savings and the knowledge that we're generating a lot of electricity on the roof that didn't have to come through the utility grid.
We're speaking with Andy Schulman, Director, Office of Planning, Construction, and Facilities at the Catholic Diocese of Arlington. And Andy, is there room for future work as well at the diocesan and BI level for this type of specific work you've elaborated on?
Yeah, so beyond solar panels, and this is just a piece of the puzzle of how we try to create a more efficient and high-quality environment for our Catholic mission, we are taking a very bottom-up approach to energy utilization across the campus. It's great if we can generate some power on your rooftop, but what about the wasteful functions across your existing facility that need attention? Companies like Aaron's full of energy auditors, electrical engineers, mechanical engineers, can come in and give you a baseline. This is what you're using today. And with some engineering and modern infrastructures like HVAC plants, lighting, electrical conditioners, we estimate we can save X percent of your current energy if you let us come in and do these retrofits. The good companies will promise you a certain percentage of savings across time. So at Bishop Ireton, Bishop O'Connell, other aged facilities, we're going to come forward with these audits, and we're going to come in and show you how much we could save if you let us come in and make some dust. After the dust is settled, we come back and we measure, and we show you what you were spending here in August of last year, and here's August of this year. Those savings are a big deal because the kinds of systems we're installing could last for 10, 15, 20 years. And it really adds up to considerable money. And that's what brings the investment community in, because it's a surefire bet in terms of a stable partner, the diocese, routine and regular payments, and very predictable. Their modeling, their engineering is so precise that they really can make good bets on how much we think we can save. So let's get the solar in, sure, but let's also go after that aged boiler. Let's go after the lights that are not maybe LED. And the way we distribute the hot and cold air in the facility might be done in a cheaper way, and that all adds up to big savings for faculty, parents, and students that can be used elsewhere in your mission. So we're not going to stop with just solar panels. We're going to keep going and make sure our buildings are effective and efficient and comfortable.
To close things out, let's go big picture here. In 2015, Pope Francis wrote a beautiful encyclical, Laudato Si, on care for our common home. And just last month, Pope Francis released Laudato Deum. In it, it says climate change is one of the principal challenges facing society and the global community, and its effects are borne by the world's most vulnerable people. The climate issue is no longer a secondary or ideological question. As the Pope has said, nothing in the world is not indifferent to us, and that we are all united by the same concern with regards to the environment and the protection of our planet. Can you talk about where you hope the future of your industry takes us in the world? And do you see hope in the work you're doing to change the future of our planet?
So there always has to be hope, right? And this is the challenge, I think, of my generation and future generations that we have to tackle. And I think the Pope put it really well when saying that essentially we need to unify behind this, because that's the only way it's going to get done. So. And that, part of that again is getting students in future generations engaged and excited about being a part of this industry. And while it is a challenge, it's a challenge I think we can collectively overcome and work towards. And that being said, it's not going to happen overnight. So it is really this phased approach. It's okay, do what we can with the technologies that we have now to reduce carbon, to be more efficient. Solar, that solar and storage, those definitely come first to mind. And then it's working to push these other technologies in the background to kind of help close the circle.
I'm not just saying this because I work for him, but we're very blessed to have a bishop who is very sensitive to these questions and issues facing our society, our nation, and of course our diocese. There's a lot of opinions as to climate change and what's causing it, and different thoughts about how to address it. The beauty of our architecture training is we don't care what's causing it or whether or not it's existential. We want to still deliver efficient, quality facilities that meet the mission, that are a joy to be in. And so I think architects were in this green issue long before anyone started talking about climate change, and that's not going to stop. We're obviously going to continue to try to conform to and enhance the church's position on what we do to the world around us and how we interact with it. That means that if I can reduce our load on the brown grid and potentially save money at the same time, I think it should be done. And Bishop agrees, and he's all in on modernizing facilities that are less impactful on the environment, that still deliver great quality for the occupants and the mission inside. A great example is our churches. I mean, they should be quietly providing hot, cold, properly conditioned air and lights, and just an environment that allows people to worship without being invasive, without them having to wear jackets or take jackets off, so to speak. Big picture, our office, the diocese, is really going to continue to attack aged infrastructure and make sure that decisions we're making for both legacy infrastructure and new infrastructure can be described as a lighter footprint on the earth, so that we are aware and careful, and that we're not contributing to the destruction of the precious resources that we've been given.
That's Andy Schulman, Director of the Office of Planning, Construction, and Facilities at the Diocese of Arlington, and Aaron Smith, VP of Business Development at Fesco Energy, talking about the plans to bring solar energy to the rooftops of Bishop Ireton High School. I'm Ryan Fannin, and you've been listening to Bishop Ireton's Real World Wednesdays.